Hi, my name is Megan Lorson and I help hairstylists find smarter ways to do things so you're working smarter and not harder. So today we're going to be talking all about color corrections, and I'm mostly going to be talking to you about the consultation and kind of basic foundational things to help you with your color corrections. This is not going to be a video showing you guys actual techniques. I will talk a little bit about technique and technical sides of it. This is just going to be a basic foundational color correction video. If you guys are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you find it helpful. So I've made a whole list of things that I'm going to talk to you guys about pertaining to color corrections because they can be super scary and there's a lot to them, from the consultation to the formulation to the technique to the end result, and it can be definitely challenging. One of the most challenging things that we probably do in the salon, and it can be very complicated to know how to price them, how to achieve the look they're wanting, but also I think one of the biggest things is just how nervous we are to talk about their end goal, because let's be honest, a lot of times they come in with these unrealistic pictures, or they think that they can, box dye their hair themselves black or brown or whatever color it is, and then they think you can come in and just slap another color on them and boom, they're blonde just from being black, or they think they can just be this color, and so it's hard because they think we're magicians and they come in like, oh yeah, I just want to be blonde now. I dyed my hair black, but I want to be back to blonde, or I want to be back to my natural brown, or whatever it is. So we as hairstylists, it's our job to have a very detailed consultation with them to explain, sorry, that's not how it works. And when we are confident about delivering our consultation and having a really good one with them, and it shows them that we are knowledgeable and that we can get them to this result, but it's going to be a lot different than they think. So it's super important that we educate the client on what that process is going to look like. So let me pull up my notes real quick. Just put my little newborn to sleep, so I'm hoping she'll stay asleep for this video so I can get through the whole thing. Fingers crossed. All right, so we're going to talk about the consultation first, because that always comes first. So whether they are messaging you on social media saying, I just dyed my hair this color and I want to be this color, or they call in the salon, it's always good to have a really good conversation before they even come in. Just ask them simple questions like, what does your hair look like now? And I always like to have them send a picture of their hair before they come in, just to kind of get myself some kind of knowledge of what I'm expecting when they come in. So I always ask if it's possible. We actually use a cell phone at our salon, so we can have our clients text us pictures to the salon phone. But you can ask them to send pictures through an email. You have a salon phone, through your Instagram, but ask them to send a picture of their hair in good lighting and ask them what they're looking to achieve. That way you have some idea. Then the next step is you're going to want them to come in for an in-person consultation. I would never, ever, ever take a client without seeing their hair first for a color correction specifically, because their definition, your definition of and just what to expect, you just don't know. I want to be able to feel their hair in person. What does it feel like? What does it actually look like in person? Because we all know a picture or a photo looks completely different sometimes than what it actually looks like in person. So then the next step is I would have them come in for an in-person consultation. That way I can feel their hair, we can see their end result goal, and I can talk them through it. Now, the first thing you want to let them know is they've just box dyed their hair, and depending on what their end result is that they are wanting to be, I'm gonna walk them through how to get there. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that for some of you that are like, I don't even know where to start with this color correction, or I don't even know, because maybe they come in and their hair is all blotchy and they've got like spots everywhere, they're spotty and they're stripy. Some of us are like, where do I even tackle that? And that might be another video where I actually demonstrate that. I'm gonna talk a little bit about technical skills today and like how you would foil that or what you would do. We'll talk about a few scenarios that just pop into my head that are kind of more common. But you wanna talk to them about the process and you wanna be confident when you deliver this. I think the initial response for us hairstylists is to obviously give our clients what they want. So when they come in and show us this blonde picture, but they did this really dark brown or black box dye, my heart tells me I want to give that to them and I want to be like, yes, yes, I can do that for you. But the problem with that is more than likely and more times than none, we can't deliver that result to them, at least in one process or at that specific appointment. So what you have to tell them is this is going to be a process, and my goal is to get you as close to this picture in the first process, and explain that to them. It might take a couple times, just because we want to keep your hair healthy, and box dye is a lot different than professional color and it lifts differently. Therefore, we'll have to see how far, because I personally don't know what your hair is capable of achieving after the box dye, because everyone's hair reacts differently, processes differently according to the porosity, if their hair is coarse, medium, fine. But also at that consultation appointment, I would do a test strand. And typically I like to take it kind of in the middle of their hair and just like a little piece, big enough to see exactly what it's going to do, but not thick enough to where you're really going to see that piece. So I like to do that too, because that'll tell me right then how their hair is going to process. Some people's hair process is really good. Some people's does not budge. So it's going to give me a little bit of an idea of what their hair is going to do for me in that 30-minute consultation or however long we book it for. And I would highly recommend charging for your consultations, because typically for a color correction consultation, it's going to take at least 30 minutes of your time, especially if you are doing a test strand. And I want to make sure that that time is worth my time, because I could have all these color corrections coming in for 30-minute consultations, doing them for free, and then none of them end up booking with me, because when they hear my rate or they hear how long it's going to take, they think in their head maybe, oh, I don't think so, I think I can go get somewhere else and get it cheaper, or whatever they think. So I want to make sure that they're serious about it and that they're going to pay my rates if that's what they end up choosing to, or if they don't and they go somewhere else, then my time it's paid for, because I can get someone else coming in that 30-minute spot or start putting on a color application in 30 minutes. So I don't want to give away that 30-minute block for free. So I'll just throw that out there, and you can charge anywhere from $25 to $30 for that 30 minutes, or whatever works for you and your system and what your needs are. So the biggest thing is to, let me back up. So what I do for color corrections is I charge an hourly rate. I made the biggest mistake when I first started out in this industry, and I've been in this industry for over 8 years now as a licensed stylist. And my biggest mistake was wanting to give people their end result, but not having that proper consultation. So what happened was I was super disappointed with their end result. They were disappointed because they thought they were going to get their picture, their end goal picture, and that wasn't realistic, but I wasn't able to tell them that, so they were disappointed too. And then I wasn't charging enough, so then I was even more disappointed because I spent hours and hours and hours doing these color corrections, did not get the end result that we both had hoped for because I didn't communicate well. But to be honest, I really didn't even know how to communicate, or I didn't know hardly anything about color corrections. So a mixture of that, and everyone's disappointed. So I currently now charge $100 an hour. I used to charge $75, and then I began to do a lot more of them, so I got more experience, and that's a lot of what I was doing for a period of time. So I started charging more eventually because I kind of had more of a demand for it. But pricing is really based on a couple things, and I don't want to get into pricing because that can be a whole nother video, but it's just based on your expertise and your skills And it's also based on what you need to make for your salon, whether you're in a salon, whether you're a suite renter, booth renter, whatever. You kind of take into consideration all your expenses. But I found personally that charging hourly for color corrections was the best way for me to go, because during a color correction, I'm mixing up so many different concoctions. I'm mixing up a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and of course I need tons of color, so I'm mixing bowl after bowl. I'm doing treatments in between, doing treatments after, and it's just like, how do you price that? So that is the only service that I personally price hourly, because it just can be a lot of things going on during a color correction. All right, so moving on from the consultation is, well, and I did say letting them know about the timing. So whether it's going to be 3 to 4 hours or maybe 6 to 8 hours, let them know how long they're going to be expected to be in the salon for when they come back for that color correction if they decide to book. Because if you don't let them know, in their heads, they're probably just thinking, oh, I'll be here for an hour, 2 hours, you know, like a normal color service. But make sure they know that this is not an ordinary color service. This is going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, and you need to plan for it and prepare for it. So when you tell them all of that, then you've covered yourself and you can feel a lot better, because you've told them, this is how much I charge hourly. This is about how long it's going to take. You should plan to be here for about 6 hours with me. And also, we're probably not going to be able to get you to this picture today. My goal is to get you as close to this as possible, but more than likely you're going to have to come back for another session or two to get you perfectly to that picture. But I always tell them, you are going to leave with beautiful hair. I would never let anybody walk out of here with crazy hair. So your end result is going to be really pretty and it's going to look really good, but it's just not going to probably be this exact picture, because it's going to be a process, because you do have box dye on there. So when you say all that to them and they decide to book with you, then they are saying they agree and they understand what you are saying, how much this is going to cost. And then just another side note, when they leave for that consultation and decide to book with you, it is very important, and I highly recommend to take a deposit, because if you're going to be blocking that much time off and they decide to cancel last minute on you, that's a whole day basically of time that you're not getting paid for anymore if they cancel, and you don't have time to schedule clients and fill that whole space up. So it's really important to take a deposit. That way they are more likely to commit and won't just cancel on you. All right, so I want to get more into the basic foundational information about color correction, because I think that's the hardest thing when we come out of like beauty school and even being in the industry for years and years, and sometimes you still don't know like, how do I do a color correction? And I think we overthink it. I know I overthought it for so long, and it's really super simple in a way. It all comes back to the color wheel. This color wheel is my best friend, and it should be your best friend too. Like I said, I've been a licensed hairstylist for over 8 years now, and I pull this out all the time. I pull a color wheel out all the time. Now, I personally right now use Paul Mitchell color, all Paul Mitchell color. I use their demi, I use their permanent lines, and I use all their color and I love it. I've also used lots of other color lines in the past. Currently right now I'm using Paul Mitchell and I love it, and I can achieve all my color results and anything that I want with Paul Mitchell color lines and their lighteners and all that. But I've used Wella, I've used Redken, I've used Joico, I've used lots of them. And they have a lot of similar colors. So this is going to be more of just like a basic. So it doesn't matter what you're using, you can still understand what I'm saying and use any color line that you want to use. So just for example, we're gonna say someone comes in with black box dye in their hair, because that's so typical. And it's also so typical that they come in and they want to be like platinum blonde. So we're just going to take that scenario and run with that for a minute. So they come in And your first like reaction might be like, okay, where do I start? Because that is two extreme opposite ends of the spectrum. Like, where do I start with that? So personally for me, of course, we've done our consultation, we've done, you know, a lot of things like that. A lot of times what I would do with that, they came in solid black, I would start with doing a post treatment. And this is going to look a little bit like a soap cap. So I would do, for instance, like Synchro Lift, Paul Mitchell Synchro Lift Plus, because it's what I'm currently using. You guys can translate it to whatever color line you're using. But I would use like Paul Mitchell Synchro Lift Plus with like a little bit of like 20 volume developer. And then I'll pump a little bit of shampoo in there and make a little bit of a soap cap and just lightly like open up that cuticle. And I would let that sit on for about 15 minutes, just watching it, just opening up the cuticle, letting it's gonna release a little bit of that color, but I'm not looking for it to like extremely lighten or like do anything crazy. I'm just looking for it to prep my canvas and prep that hair, open up that cuticle a little bit, so that way when I go in to lighten it, it's ready and it's gonna give me better results. So I'll do that post color treatment, soap cap, whatever you wanna call it. Then I would bring her back to my chair, completely dry her, blow her out, and then we're ready for her foil service. So then I'm probably going, depending on her look, it could be anything, but say she wants to be platinum blonde, I might end up doing a platinum card foil technique on her, which means every single piece of hair gets in foil to lighten her whole entire head. Now, most people are coming in, they're wanting a little bit of that rooty look, and honestly, a lot of times that's a great option for color correction. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of a root, color her whole head with a platinum card, and then feather it up at the root area or tease it so that way she has a nice blended root area. And let that process for the full processing time. Of course, I'm checking it and checking how their hair feels. If it starts feeling gummy or if it starts getting super, super light and you're like, hey, your hair's getting super light, then obviously rinse it out, and I'll rinse it out in sections too. So I always start in the back usually. And so I'll start rinsing out in the back first if it starts looking like it's done. So you just want to keep an eye on it. But for instance, Synchro Lift Plus can process for a full 50 minutes, I believe. So I'm gonna let that process the full time. If her hair is looking good, if it's still lightening, I'm gonna let it do its whole thing. Then I'm gonna rinse it out after that, check it, look at it, see how light it gets. More times than none, most of the hair is gonna come up very, very warm. It's not gonna get to a really light 8, 9, 10, or sometimes not even until 7 lightness. So it's gonna have a lot of orange in it most of the time, right? So then we're like, what do we do now? It's possible you might be able to do one more process on it that day. It just depends on their hair. I would also be doing some treatments in between to help with their hair. I would be doing Olaplex on it for sure. Adding that into the lightener and then doing number 2 on their hair in between processes if we did multiple. But you're gonna have to tone it at some point. And I feel like this is another part where we get stuck. So sometimes it's like orange, but they wanna be platinum. So we're like, oh, let me grab a level 9 or 10 and tone them with that. But that's not even gonna do anything to the hair because it's such a light toner and her hair is too dark. So it's not gonna do anything. And if it does do anything, it's not gonna stay very long, or as soon as you rinse it out, it's gonna be gone. So that's when I look at the color wheel, and this is how basic and simple color corrections can be. So if I'm like, oh my gosh, her hair's really orange, like I don't know what to tone her with, I can go, and I will say probably most color lines have something like this, but something I really love about Paul Mitchell is, if you can see, this is their chart for the demi, but all of their color lines have charts like this. So like their permanent color line, the color XG, they all have charts made. And all of the charts have a color wheel inside of them, which is super helpful. And then in the color wheel, you can see they have all the colors listed in the color wheel. So this is specifically for the demi, which is what I like to tone with most of the time. I use other things too, but a lot of times I'm toning with the demi because it's super fast. It gives me the results that I need, and I love the liquid gel consistency. And I love how I can just apply it right back at the wash house sink and bowl. So it tells me like, okay, the MT series is green. So I can see what's in the bottle. So I know like, okay, MT is green. There's a lot of green in there. Or if I want to do a BV, I can see that it lives in the blue violet section, but it's closer to brown. So it's gonna be more of a brown violet is what it actually in the bottle. So say their hair comes up orange right here. Okay, their hair's orange, can clearly see that. And then what you're gonna do is whenever you wanna cancel out a color, you literally go straight across the color wheel to the opposite side, and whatever color is on the opposite side of what their hair actually is at the moment is what you're gonna need to put on their hair to cancel it out. So their hair's orange, okay, it tells me right across is blue, which means I need to put something with blue on their hair. And sometimes that's really scary because you're like, is their hair gonna turn blue? And no, it's not. It's going to go in that cuticle and start to neutralize to give it a beautiful color. So it's not orange, but it won't be blue either. Just same as if someone comes in, say it's another color correction and they wanna be blonde, but then they also wanna be brown in between that, but like they currently have like a really red base. That can be a tricky one because they could have like a red base. So I would put all your foils in first, and then in between, you're gonna wanna put something on that red to cancel out the red because they just wanna be a nice neutral brown. So a lot of us might go for a brown. We might grab the brown and be like, okay, she wants to be brown, I'll put the brown on top of the red. But that red is still gonna show through a little bit, and it's gonna end up being more of a brown red. So what I would grab in this instance, in which I love using the MT series for color corrections. So I would grab like, depending on the level of her hair, most of the time they're like a medium color, so medium brown color, medium red. I would grab like a 6MT because right here, her hair is red. She said she wants to be just a nice neutral brown. So I know I need to go right across the color wheel, which is green, and I need to put something with green on her hair, something with green in it on her hair to cancel the red out to neutralize it. So this Paul Mitchell color chart tells me, okay, we have the MT series, which has green in it. So I'm gonna grab the green, put it on her hair. It's gonna perfectly neutralize it and give her a beautiful, rich brown, which is scary, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm putting green on somebody's hair. Like, is that gonna turn her hair green? Like, what's that gonna look like? That's scary. But it's not. It's just knowing the color wheel. It's knowing the color line you're using and what you need to cancel out what's in their hair and get them to what they want to be. And then let's see, trying to think of another scenario that might be common. Let me see if I wrote any down. I don't think I did. But if you guys have any questions about color corrections, I will definitely answer them below. I answer all my comments. So if you guys have like a specific color correction question, definitely let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you and answer it. You guys can also DM me on Instagram at megan.lorson. I also post lots of educational content over there as well. So as far as techniques, it really depends on what you are trying to achieve. And it's really hard to say because there's not one size fits all. There's not one technique that works best. So one technique is the platinum card. I would tease the roots, and you can do a lot of like teasy lights for any color correction that you want to do that wants a shadow root. And a lot of times I feel like that's a really good option for color corrections, and if you can talk them into that. And of course I always leave them with a nice bright piece around the front, but it's a good place to start because a lot of times you've already got so much going on with color corrections. It's hard to have the root process and the ends and the mid shaft and then the ends. And we all know the root process is so much faster than the ends. And most of the time they're gonna have a little bit of regrowth, and that regrowth is gonna be virgin hair that's never been colored. So that's always gonna do so much better and get so much lighter than the ends. So I always keep that in mind when working with their hair. And then when they come in with a lot of the like splotchy, stripy stuff going on, that can be a whole beast in itself, and like, oh my gosh, where do I start? But a lot of times fine weaving or fine slicing is going to be your best friend as far as the technical side goes. Again, it's not one size fits all, and I can't be like, oh yeah, take this sectioning and this sectioning and you want to do this. It really depends on what they're coming in with and what they want their end result to be. But a lot of times when I'm doing color corrections, I like to take finer sections, whether that's a fine weave or a fine slice, because having the hair in thinner sections is going to allow that lightener to really penetrate through the hair, get really evenly saturated. That way it can process and get as light as possible for them, or whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. But I can definitely do some actual technical videos on color corrections. I hope you guys found some of this information helpful, and there's so much more I could talk about with color corrections, and I'm sure you guys have there's so many different questions too, so please ask them below so I can answer them, and you guys can go back through and check out the comments later just to see if anybody has any questions that maybe you had questions of. But I love making videos for you guys. I love making lots of educational videos to help you work smarter and not harder behind the chair. And if you guys have any video suggestions, let me know, because I read all the comments, and I love making videos that truly help you as a stylist behind the chair grow, and just I love teaching. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.